Olá, seja bem-vinda e seja bem-vindo a mais um AgroAmérica, programa produzido em parceria com o Instituto Interamericano de Cooperação para a Agricultura, o ICA, aqui no AgroMais. Falamos sobre boas práticas agrícolas que podem ser reproduzidas em prol de uma agricultura mais sustentável e o bem-estar rural. Neste programa, nós vamos falar sobre a produtividade da soja nos Estados Unidos. Um produtor no estado da Geórgia, no sudeste do país, alcançou a marca de 231,8 sacas de soja por hectare e registrou um novo recorde mundial de produtividade. Meu entrevistado é o Alex Harrell, que fala diretamente da cidade de Smithville. Alex, welcome to AgroAmerica. It's a pleasure to have you here and understand more about your productivity success in Georgia.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, before achieving this productivity record, what were your objectives in planning to improve yield in the field? How did this start? And what is your family plantation, family business like?
Yeah, we farm in southwest Georgia. We're in a couple counties here, a little town called Smithville. And we grow primarily corn, soybeans, and wheat. We also plant watermelons. We're in a heavy cotton and peanut country, and traditionally that's all that was planted in this area. And we've kind of worked away from that, and we actually don't plant either one of those crops anymore. We're just all corn, wheat, soybeans.
Mm-hmm. Now, Georgia traditionally used to be a cotton and peanut country, right? That was usually one of the most traditional types of crops used. What made you make that change?
Yeah, it's actually still the two primary crops in this area are cotton and peanut. I just personally don't grow those. I never was a big fan of the peanuts because there's a lot of labor and tillage involved in that, and it's a slow process. And then the cotton, we never could make cotton work for our rotation because corn has always been our main crop, and it takes different row spacings for cotton and a few different things, different equipment. So we just made the switch, and we are now just all grain and no cotton and peanuts. And I think we're probably the only farm here in this area that is that way.
Fair enough, fair enough. So let's get right into it. You've been able to achieve a new productivity record, world record. The previous record was made by a soybean producer in the United States, and someone that you know also very well, as I understand. How was this planning done? How did you begin actually to prepare the field, look into the nutrients that were needed in order to boost your productivity for soybean production? Can you tell us a bit about this programming and this planning?
Yeah, we've always pushed yields, whether it be on corn, wheat, soybeans, whatever crop. Even when we were growing cotton and peanuts, we strive to make higher yields. But the corn has really always been my primary focus on pushing yields. And soybeans, especially in this area, they've always been on the back burner. Now, we've always done a lot better job with soybeans than, most people in this area, just because they take a back seat to the cotton and peanuts. But we started planting a few different groups of soybeans and are traditionally planted in this area. We started seeing the yield, increase. Every year we change something, we'd see a higher yield. And we started seeing the potential with these things. And I said, look, if we're growing this, we're pushing high yield contest corn acres. Why can't we just, bleed some of these practices over into the soybean side of things, and let's see how far we can push a soybean crop. And that's kind of what it all stemmed off of high yield corn.
Right, right. And now, how is this plantation done in essence from one year to the other? I would understand that you may have some sort of rotational practices. Did you have to make some sort of soil analysis in order to understand what was missing in the soil in order for the soybean to grow healthier and to grow, with better productivity?
Yeah, we're huge on soil sampling. We pull 1 acre grids every single year on every single acre. So, we're a little over 3,000 acre farm. I mean, we're pulling over 3,000 soil samples off of those 3,000 acres. And we break those down, and we variable rate apply our lime and gypsum and everything according to what those samples tell us. So, I mean, we're not just going out in 50-acre field and pulling, 5 samples, we're pulling 50 samples. And we're getting pretty precise on narrowing down that window of what nutrients we need, what levels and balances in the soils we need. We're narrowing that down to a lot smaller area in the field.
Fair enough. So that goes into a laboratory, and then you can access exactly what are the nutrients that maybe are in excess, are needed to be applied. And in that essence, that goes into the science that goes behind high productivity soybean production. What are the climatic and geographical characteristics of that region that you said, before just now that soybean was in the back burner, right? In the production in the area. So what changed in order for that to be, in your case, the primary product, along with corn?
Yeah, the reason soybeans are on the back burner in this area is it's not really because we can't grow them. It's they're a terrible rotation crop for peanut, which again, that's that and cotton are the main crops. So most of the guys that are growing a lot of peanuts, they're not planting any soybeans because they're both legumes and they're not good for rotation with each other. So when we cut out peanut, that allowed us to put soybeans in a heavier rotation. Now, most of the soybeans that are grown in my area are double crop behind wheat. So we'll plant wheat in the winter, we'll harvest it early summer, and then plant the soybeans. But in this case, these were full season beans, the ones we broke the record with. The days are getting short on your double crop beans, so your yields are kind of capped on those. But the full season beans we're planting a lot earlier, 3 months earlier than the traditional double crop. So we're able to get a lot more sunlight, a lot more GDUs accumulated on those versus a double crop bean.
And these are irrigated soybeans, is that correct?
That's correct, with center pivot.
Okay. What kind of technology do you guys have in the field in order to help you, aside with the irrigation and aside with this testing with the soil in every acre that you have planted? How is that? What are the other processes that you have to implement in order to guarantee that you're going to actually have the ideal soybean production that you want? And what were the processes that you had to change in order to actually increase that this time?
Yeah, it's a systems approach. I tell people all the time, it's like baking a cake. If it takes 15 ingredients to make this cake, you could probably leave 1 or 2 out and you're still going to end up with a cake, but it's not going to be quite as good of a cake as if you had everything in it. And it's the same thing with this crop. It takes from residue management from the corn last year to the pH, the calcium, everything that goes in, fall application, lime and gypsum, and then we apply poultry litter in the spring, all the way up to our foliar product, which are Brant product. All the way through the growing season, we're injecting through the irrigation, we're wide dropping nutrients next to the row, we're foliar feeding, insecticide passes, fungicide passes. I mean, it's just, there's no one thing I can put my finger on and say, this is what you have to have. It's a lot of things combined. And like I said, it's a true systems approach. If you don't have all of them and they're not all in sync with one another and balanced, they're not working together, then it's just not going to work out.
Mm-hmm. What about in terms of the detailing between, let's say, the seed of rows and the distancing between these seeds, and also the rate in which you actually apply those seeds? Was there any change made in terms of these details?
Yeah, I'm traditionally a lower population than the rest of the country, and I think as a whole, the country is starting to scale back on these recommended planting rates. For a long time, it was 160,000. If you had less than 140,000 plants, they were talking about replant. And now our target population is only 85 to 100,000. And the final stand in this field was around 77,000 plants on 30-inch rows. So, I mean, that proves in itself that you don't need, 140,000 plants to make these yields. Now, that being said, when you get too low, you'll start getting a lot of branching issues. You'll start branching out so much, the branches will have so much weight they will actually break off and fall on the ground. So you have to, just because the yield potential is there on a lower population, you still need to take into consideration, maybe we need to crowd them a little bit more to reduce this branching issue. But then when you get too thick, then you start a lodging issue, whole stalk fall over. So you need to be in that half medium, kind of in the middle. But traditionally, the planting recommendation populations were way too high for what they needed.
Excellent. Alex, we're going to go for a short break, and when we come back, we're going to go further in details between all that is needed, or all that you can tell us about how to increase yield productivity in soybean production in your area. Para você que vem nos acompanhando, fique por aqui que depois do intervalo o AgroAmérica volta já em entrevista com Alex Harrell, sojicultor nos Estados Unidos, que quebrou o recorde mundial na produtividade de soja. Até já! Olá, sejam bem-vindos outra vez ao AgroAmérica. Nós estamos falando hoje com Alex Harrell, que é sojicultor nos Estados Unidos e quebrou o recorde mundial na produtividade de soja. Alex, we're back. Thanks again for giving us a little bit of your time to talk about your productivity here. So, as I understand, this productivity contest is mainly organized by the University of Georgia and their agronomy department, if I understand correct. And how do these contests actually help you guys achieve better processes in soybean as well as other crop production? What's the stimuli that is given through this type of engagement, contest, and interaction with other producers in the country?
Yeah, there's not a national soybean contest like there is corn. In the United States, the corn, we have the NCGA, National Corn Growers Association, and they always have the big national contest, yield contest. It goes state by state, and then they have a national rank as well. But there's none of that for soybeans. So the soybeans have to go by individual state by state, and there's really not a contest for the soybeans, but we knew that we were going to be very close to breaking this world record. So we called University of Georgia, and they came out and verified. They send their county agent, extension agents, and then they send their grain specialists and everything. They have to come out and measure it, watch you harvest it, check the moisture. Basically they have to be there to verify it. So, if it does go over that certain yield, they can say, okay, we were all out here to verify this. It goes, it follows our state guidelines, which are recognized by the nation. And the reason we do these they're not for, contests or interviews or magazine covers. We do these, and we do a lot of trials and testing on farm, and we see, okay, these products work. They gave us a positive ROI, and we're going to implement these into our standard practice. Okay. And these products did not work, and they haven't worked for, 3 years in a row. So they're getting cut. We're not going to consider those for standard practice anymore. But what it does, it helps us, take product. We find out things that work, what doesn't work, and we implement standard practice to try to raise our overall farm yield.
Alex, so one of the big challenges today that the international community is talking about, producers all over the world, is the challenge between given climate change, exactly. With global warming, we're seeing that the transition between the rainfall in different countries, the seasons are changing a little bit. We're feeling that a lot in Brazil with the heat, right, in the throughout the country, with the United States as well. How has that made you change your production? Have you seen this? Have you felt this impact? Have you had to make some changes in your production given climate change at all?
In my area personally, I have not. I'm not versed enough on this topic to even really speak about it much. In my particular area, I have not seen. We had a milder summer this year than we've had in 11 years. So it was cooler this summer than it's been since 2012. So I'm not the again, I'm not versed enough in this to speak on it. And I would be speaking out of turn if I even tried to.
I'm asking because, uh,
I do know it's an issue. You mentioned in Brazil, but again, I'm not the guy that can't answer that.
no, not a problem. I'm asking mainly because as I read a little bit on your production and your productivity, you guys actually had a lot of rain, I think after the plantation or after harvesting at some point, where you actually had a lot of rain that wasn't really expected at a certain point. So I wanted to know, was this a criteria in order for your yield actually to boost? Did the rain come at the right time? Or was this something that you see usually year to year?
No, we had a really large rain event right after planting, which actually hurt us. And then we had a large rain event during pollination. We had 10 inches in 15 days, which hurt us. So the two large rain events that you're referring to, those were you know they weren't detrimental to the yield by any means, but they did not help us in any way. I would have much rather just not gotten those two rains than get them. Getting an inch of rain and getting 10 inches of rain, there's a huge difference in those two. And like I said, the large rains would hurt us more than not getting the rain.
Certainly, certainly. I mean, you're talking about irrigated soybean production in the United States, and you have to cope with these rain levels. Is this like a new phenomenon for you guys, or is this something that is usually year to year?
No, we always get large rain events. Some years we're really dry. Some years we get just hammered by rain. It seems like every day. But there's not a single year since I've been farming that we didn't get big, heavy rainfalls at some point or another that hurt us, that set us back in a negative way. So
Yeah.
it's nothing new. It just comes at different times.
Well, Georgia is exactly at north of Florida, so you guys actually get a lot of the leftover or sometimes good portion of the hurricane season that's coming in from the Caribbean all the way going up to the eastern coast of the United States. So that's a different reality in comparison to like the other soybean producer who had the previous record, who actually produces in Illinois, if I believe that I'm correct, after reading the reports. I don't know if he's in the same state, but that's the other side of the country. I mean, that's a whole different idea of how to produce with the rainfall, with irrigation. So do you think that in the next coming years you can actually achieve the same rates? Is that dependent more on the products that you use on the field, or also given the rainfall that you've been having?
Yeah, that's actually not accurate. The guy that held the record before me, Randy Dowdy, he's only about 2 hours south of me. He's on the Florida line, so he deals with the same issues that I deal with. He has the same hurricanes that affect Randy affect me. And you could be speaking of Kip Cullers in Missouri, who held the record in 2010, I believe, up until 2016. And then Randy Dowdy broke it in 16. But Randy's actually in Georgia. He's 2 hours south of me, right on the Florida line.
Fair enough. So with the record world record holder in 2010 in Missouri, how do you know what are the differences between your production and his production, given that the previous record holder, which is south of you by 2 hours, you guys probably have similar characteristics in terms of planting and dealing with the rainfall. Do you know what the differences are with this record holder in 2010, who's in another state entirely, not too far, right? But still quite different between, the geographical places?
It's definitely different. He's on a different soil type, different climate. He's probably fighting. I would assume he's fighting. I don't know him personally, but Kip, I would assume he fought, not enough heat late season, where our biggest challenge a lot of time is insect and disease pressure from these fronts that are coming, these hurricanes that come out of the Gulf. Every time it rains out of the Gulf, we get, a new flush of disease and insects that come in from that. And that's a constant battle. Every time we get a rain from the Gulf, we're having to spray fungicides. I mean, whether it be on corn, soybeans, peanuts, cotton, whatever the crop is. And that's one, advantage that they have that we, you know, over us, and then an advantage that we have over them is we can wait till the soil conditions are right where they're pushed to plant a lot of times because they just have such a short growing season. Where, you know, if it's wet and raining here, I don't have to plant right now. You know, our growing season, I may lose a little yield on the top end, but I'm not forced to try to beat a frost. You know, I mean, I've got a 3 to 4 month window where I can plant soybeans, where he's got a 3-week window.
Yeah, that's quite different. Have you had to change your products, especially between pesticide use? Are these chemical pesticides? Are these biological pesticides? Are there different technologies that you had to adapt for in order to combat these different insects?
Yeah, we try to keep our chemistries mixed up. You know, I don't want to spray the same chemistry, whether it's fungicide, insecticide, herbicide, anything. I don't want to spray that same chemistry back, because that's when you start getting resistance to things. So we always try to change up different group fungicides, insecticides, herbicides, try to keep our chemistries mixed up just to stay ahead of the curve and create, you know, we don't want to create a resistance problem to any of them.
And that means working with different companies, working with different products. Have you had to innovate in any area in order to make sure that actually you're combating and between these different phenomenon actually work better?
Yeah, not necessarily different companies. I mean, just different products. You know, we want to use different active ingredients for, you know, let's just say we're fighting a disease. You know, if I'm going to spray 4 to 5 fungicides this year, I don't want to spray the same fungicide all 5 times. You want to keep that chemistry mixed up, because again, if you spray that same chemistry over and over and over, you're going to end up with a resistance problem.
Right, right. So how do you guys deal with soil preparation before plantation? Is that also something that you have to change up every season?
I'm a strip till guy. I plant cover crop in the fall after the cash crop comes out. I'm actually the field that we cut the 206 soybeans in. We're planting a cover crop in that field today, and we will strip till in. We'll terminate that cover crop next spring. We'll strip till into it and make a clean seed bed. We'll leave the cover crop in the middles, and then we'll plant corn into it. And same thing for beans. You know, behind corn, we'll plant a cover crop, and then we'll go right back in. We'll strip till into that with our soybeans next year.
Alex, we're closing up. We're about to, finish up our program. Before we finish, I'd like to know, what are your expectations for next year, given that you guys are going into fall and winter's coming up soon? Do you expect to also have a good record next year? And what do you plan to do in order to make sure that you get a better record or the same record? Who knows?
Yeah. I get that question a lot. You know, I'm not just sitting here telling you, yeah, I'm going to go try to break my own record next year. I mean, we're going to try to. There's a very good chance that it won't happen, and I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm happy with where we're at. My goal is to raise my yields on the whole farm, not just contest acres. And we're on top of the mountain of the soybean world right now, and I'm going to continue to push soybeans, but I'm going to shift my focus back to corn. And I'm gonna push corn really hard this coming up year, as well as soybeans. But again, I enjoy growing corn, and that's where our high yield beans came from, was they bled over from our corn program. So I'm gonna concentrate on both of them. But like I said, right now, next year I'm in corn mode now over soybeans.
Fair enough. Well, best of luck to you. Thanks so much for your time. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to get to know more about how you produce good yield in soybean production as well as corn. And I hope to have you again on the program so we could talk about other topics. Thanks so much, Alex.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Bom, o AgroAmérica encerrou e ficamos por aqui. Espero que você gostou do nosso conteúdo e não esqueça de verificar as nossas redes sociais, @AgroMaisTV. Até já!